I want to ask you a question right now. And I mean, I want you to be brutally honest with yourself as you listen to this.
Right.
Think about the sheer amount of effort you put into managing your life every single day.
Oh, yeah.
The late nights you spend, meticulously mapping out your 5-year career plan.
Dig.
Exactly. The vision boards you've glued together.
Right.
The goal-setting workshops. The success books you buy, hoping to find that one secret to optimization.
It's exhausting.
It is. But here is the massive face-slapping question for today. What if every single one of those desperate attempts to, manifest your dream life, what if that is the exact mechanism destroying your happiness?
It is a deeply unsettling proposition. I mean, it really is. Because we are entirely conditioned by modern society to believe the exact opposite.
Right. We're told to push harder.
Always harder. We are infected with this collective cultural disease. It tells us that if you just grip the steering wheel of your life hard enough, if you just force your personal will onto the world with enough hustle, you will inevitably win.
We measure our entire worth by our ability to micromanage reality.
We do. And look at the graph of modern anxiety. It is a straight line up. The red arrow is just pointing down on our mental health while the anxiety line goes up.
It's terrifying. You hustle, you grind, you try to engineer every single outcome, and what actually happens? You are exhausted.
Chronically anxious.
You look around and realize that the harder you paddle, the more you feel like you are actively drowning in your own expectations. So today we are going to completely dismantle that framework.
We have to.
We are taking a deep dive into some source material that is going to feel like a psychological slap in the face, but in the best possible way. We're unpacking excerpts from Outrageous Openness. It's by Tosha Silver. And I need to clarify right out of the gate, Tosha is not your typical, soft-spoken, toxic positivity guru.
Oh, far from it. She brings a completely different architecture to this whole conversation. I mean, she is a Yale-educated English major who eventually evolved into a heavily tattooed, highly irreverent astrologer.
Which is quite the career pivot.
It's a massive pivot. She operates with a machete, not a scalpel. She describes herself as a devotee of the Hindu goddess Kali. And that's significant because Kali is the archetype known for literally severing the ego's delusions.
So no toxic positivity here.
None. She is not here to tell you to just think happy thoughts.
Yeah.
She is here to dissect the structural failure of how we live.
And to ground this immediately in reality, the foreword to this book wasn't written by another mystic.
Right, he was a doctor.
Yeah, Dr. Christianne Northrup, a board-certified medical doctor. That is what really hooked me on this. We are not just talking about abstract floating philosophy here.
No, there's a biological component.
Exactly. Dr. Northrup makes a concrete medical observation in the text. She states that the act of turning your problems over to a greater power, whether you call it the divine, the universe, or just the flow of nature, it actually metabolizes stress hormones in the human body better than any prescribed medicine she has encountered in her entire career.
Which perfectly frames our ultimate mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We are going to explore the terrifying, counterintuitive, but ultimate power of total surrender.
Total surrender.
Because treating the universe like a giant cosmic vending machine where you deposit a positive affirmation and aggressively demand that a specific outcome pops out, it is not a strategy for success.
No.
It is a recipe for absolute disaster.
And speaking of disaster, to understand how to actually get what you need in life, we first have to look at the horrifying blowback of forcing what you think you want.
Yes. The blowback is real.
It's one thing to say, don't force things, but the source material gives us a stark, almost chilling look at the consequences. And that brings us to the curse of the vision board.
The hidden poison of ego-driven manifestation.
I want you to listen to this story from the text. It originally comes from a metaphysician named Florence Scovel Shinn. There was a woman who deeply, desperately coveted a very specific house.
Right.
It wasn't on the market, it wasn't for sale, but she visualized it constant.
She made it her whole focus.
She became utterly transfixed by this singular piece of real estate. She funneled all of her mental and emotional energy into demanding that this specific house and only this house become hers.
And the terrifying part of the story is that she actually got it.
She got it.
But the cost was catastrophic.
Right, because the owner of the house suddenly died of an unexpected illness.
Just out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. The woman swooped in, she bought the house from the estate, and was initially thrilled. I mean, in the context of modern hustle culture, her vision board worked. She successfully manifested her goal.
The ultimate success story, right?
Until it wasn't. Almost immediately after she moved in, her own partner unexpectedly died.
It's just chilling.
She eventually went to Florence Scovilcian, absolutely terrified, asking if her obsession had somehow caused the previous owner's death.
And Shin's response is incredibly confronting here.
Mm.
She doesn't offer any comforting platitudes at all.
No.
She essentially tells the woman, quite likely, your determination to get what you wanted was so strong, you helped the other woman leave. And now you are reaping the fruit.
Okay, I have to stop you right there, because I know you, the listener, are having the exact same reaction I did.
Which is?
That sounds insane. Are we genuinely sitting here suggesting that this woman committed literal murder with her mind just by wanting a house?
It sounds like a horror movie.
Because if so, I fundamentally reject that. That feels like a massive leap into magical guilt. How does this actually work mechanically without turning into a supernatural horror story?
That is a crucial pushback. And we absolutely need to clarify the mechanism here. It is not about literal magical murder.
Okay.
The text is illustrating the mechanics of violent, energetic attachment. Think of it like an ecosystem. We become that obsessed, that rigidly fixated on a singular, unyielding outcome. You are introducing a massive amount of forced, high-pressure energy into a delicate, natural flow.
Like throwing a boulder into a small stream.
Exactly. It's like deciding you want a specific type of fish in a local lake because it looks pretty, so you dump a barrel of them in. You aren't intending to destroy the lake, but your sheer determination to force your preference onto the environment collapses the local food chain.
Wow.
The text warns us that strong, obsessive attachments inevitably create chaos.
So it's not a cosmic punishment for being greedy. It's a structural collapse caused by forcing a puzzle piece into a slot where it just doesn't fit.
Precisely. You are violently intervening in the natural order. Let's look at the word disaster for a second. The etymology of disaster literally means going against the stars.
Wait, really? Going against the stars?
Yes, going against the natural alignment of things. When you try to commandeer something that is not organically meant for you, you are manufacturing a disaster. Anything forced into manifestation through sheer personal will is described by Shin as ill-gotten.
It's like you're holding reality hostage. You're standing there saying, give me this exact job, this exact person, this exact house, or else.
And the natural flow essentially says, okay, you can have it, but you are going to break the entire system to acquire it. And the collateral damage is going to be yours to hold.
Which exposes the fundamental flaw in so many popular law of attraction concepts that have completely hijacked our modern culture.
Oh, they actively empower the ego.
Yeah.
And by ego, we don't just mean arrogance. We mean that terrified, rigid management system in your mind that believes it must control every variable or it will perish.
The control freak inside all of us.
Right. These modern manifestation workshops teach you to demand things that might be entirely wrong for your actual development. You think you are stepping into your power as a creator, but you are essentially navigating Tokyo with a map of New York.
That is a brilliant analogy.
You are aggressively demanding directions to places that don't exist in your actual landscape, completely unaware that forcing the issue is going to run you right off a cliff.
That is a brutal reality check for anyone listening who has spent the last month visualizing a very specific outcome. So what is the counterintuitive move here?
You have to change the prompt.
Right. If I shouldn't demand the specific house or the specific job, what am I supposed to do? Because the friction here is real. If I just drop the steering wheel, I don't feel liberated. I feel like I'm going to crash.
Sure.
Am I just supposed to sit on the couch and be homeless?
Not at all. Surrender is not passivity. The radical shift is in the phrasing and the frequency of your desire.
Okay, break that down.
Instead of demanding that one specific unyielding outcome, the text suggests asking for the home that is right for me.
Just that.
Just that. You let the broader intelligence of the system pick the specific coordinates. You call in divine order, or simply the natural flow of life, and say, bring the perfect place that is meant to be mine.
Okay, I see.
You are still setting a clear intention. You are still taking action to look for houses.
Yeah.
But you are completely removing the suffocating white-knuckled grip of the ego. You are opening your hands.
Bring the home that is right for me. It requires a terrifying amount of vulnerability.
It really does.
You have to look in the mirror and admit that maybe, just maybe, you don't actually possess the aerial view of your own life. You don't actually know what is best for you.
It requires deep humility. And there's a really simple trick in the text for this, a kind of mental filter.
Oh, without the divine filter?
Yes, you just add 3 words to any anxiety-inducing thought you have.
I love this part.
Take your typical modern panic, like, I will never find a partner or I'm going to go bankrupt. and you just add without the divine to the end of it.
So I will never find a partner without the divine.
Exactly. I will go bankrupt without the divine. It instantly highlights the arrogance of the ego, thinking it's operating entirely alone in a dead universe.
And that behind all our panic is this brutal assumption that we are completely unsupported. That without the universe's help, you couldn't even find a parking space, let alone a spouse.
Exactly. You literally couldn't.
Which brings us to a massive point of friction. It's one thing to philosophically let go of an abstract desire. But what happens when survival is on the line?
The physical reality.
Yeah. What happens when you desperately need something immediately? Like, say, a place to live in one of the most expensive, hyper-competitive real estate markets on the planet.
This is where we move from theory to a highly practical physical tool. This brings us to the concept of the vacuum, and a mechanism the author calls the God box.
This story completely upended how I view anxiety. Tosha shares her own experience of trying to find an apartment in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Which is famously impossible.
For context, she was looking during a period when the housing vacancy rate was a microscopic 3%. 3%. That is not just a tight market. That is a statistical nightmare.
In a 3% vacancy market, the standard human response is chronic, debilitating panic.
Oh, absolutely.
You have people obsessively refreshing real estate listings every 4 minutes, treating every open house like a gladiatorial combat arena, internalizing every rejection as a literal threat to their basic survival. The anxiety becomes entirely paralyzing.
And Tosha admits in the text that she grew up as a perpetual worrier. Her default setting was anxiety. But instead of hitting the pavement in a cold sweat and fighting those 3% odds, she utilized this God box. It's incredibly simple, almost deceptively so.
It sounds too easy.
It does. She simply wrote her worry down on a slip of paper, I need an apartment, dropped it into a literal wooden box, and walked away.
Just walked away.
She physically and mentally handed the problem over to a different department. And within a month, her veterinarian, of all people, while casually checking a kitten for ear mites in an examination room, just offhandedly looked up and asked her, "You still need a spot, right? I know one."
That is wild.
Tosha got the apartment and ended up living there for 15 years.
We really need to pause and deeply unpack the psychological and neurological mechanisms happening here, because it is far more profound than just a cute magic trick with a wooden box.
Yeah, let's get into the mechanics of it.
The text makes a brilliant clarification here. You do not need any specific religious framework to do this. You don't need a concept of God at all.
So atheists can do this too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can offer your worry to your own highest subconscious wisdom, or, as the text beautifully puts it, to the force that keeps the birds aloft in the sky.
I love that phrasing.
The theological label is totally irrelevant. What matters is the physical kinesthetic act of taking a massive cognitive load out of your spinning mind and placing it into an external container.
I want to dig into that because writing things down isn't new, but there is a difference between writing a to-do list and what is happening here.
Huge difference.
When I write a to-do list, I am taking ownership of the anxiety. I am saying, here are the 20 things I must control today.
You're doubling down on the ego.
Exactly. When you put it in the God box, you are explicitly resigning from the problem. You are taking the heavy, radioactive backpack of anxiety off and leaving it in another room.
Yes. Let's look at the physics of the mind. When your brain is endlessly grasping for an answer, when you are ruminating on that 3% vacancy rate, your cognitive bandwidth is entirely maxed out.
Just completely fried.
Your mind is full of noise, fear, and projection. There is literally no psychological space for a creative solution to enter. You are locked in a closed loop of panic.
Right.
But the physical act of writing the problem down and dropping it into a box acts as a pattern interrupt. It halts the endless grasping. It creates a vacuum in your consciousness.
And the universe hates a vacuum.
Exactly. If there's one universal law we can observe in both physics and metaphysics, it is that nature abhors a vacuum. The moment you create empty space, the environment rushes in to fill it.
The space opens up, and the text drops this fascinating neurological reality to back this up. Studies show that the human mind recalibrates in 21 days.
21 days to build a habit.
So this isn't just about feeling better for 5 minutes. If you reliably submit a particular recurring worry to this box for 3 straight weeks every time the panic spikes, you write it down and drop it in it. You are actively utilizing neuroplasticity.
You are rewiring the hardware.
You are physically rewiring your brain's anxiety loop. You are starving the neural pathway of panic by refusing to feed it with rumination.
You are training your nervous system to tolerate the sensation of surrender. You are teaching your amygdala that not knowing the answer right now is not a mortal threat.
Right.
Whenever the panic flares up, your conscious mind can look at the physical box and remind your nervous system it's in the box. The proxy is holding it. It's handled. You stop meddling in the machinery of your own life.
And this vacuum principle applies to physical space too, right? There's that part in the text about cleaning out the kitchen drawer.
Oh, yes. The physical manifestation of the vacuum.
It says if you are feeling completely stuck in life, don't go buy a $1,000 manifestation course. Go into your kitchen and aggressively clean out your junk drawer.
Throw away the things that no longer serve you.
Right. Because you are creating a literal physical vacuum in your home. You're changing the energy density of the space. And the text claims that when you bravely release the clutter, new opportunities, whether it's a new job, a new lover, they literally rush into that cleared space.
It is the exact same principle as the God box, just applied to physical objects.
It's all about making room. And Tosha takes this concept of making room and scales it up from a wooden box to an entire city. There is another tool in the text she calls the inner Sherpa, and it's about taking the surrender to the literal streets.
This is a wild exercise.
Imagine doing this. You take the ferry into San Francisco for an entire afternoon, but you bring no plan, no phone, no reservations, no map.
Nothing.
You just step off the boat, start walking, and offer the afternoon over, asking the divine or your subconscious to bring what is most healing and necessary.
It is the ultimate exercise in relinquishing executive control. You are forcing the hyper-analytical, optimizing part of your brain to sit in the back seat, and you are allowing your intuition to take the wheel.
Just completely letting go.
The text describes this experience as a 2-week holiday for the soul, compressed into a single afternoon.
But let's be real about what that actually feels like.
Oh, it's terrifying.
If I stepped off a ferry in a major city without my phone, my first reaction wouldn't be peace. It would be sheer terror.
You'd be patting your pockets constantly.
Exactly. What if I get lost? What if I waste the afternoon? We are so deeply conditioned to optimize every single second. We map the most efficient walking routes. We read 3 different Yelp reviews before we dare to buy a cup of coffee.
We treat our free time like a corporate asset to be maximized.
Which is exactly why the inner Sherpa exercise is so vital. It forces you to push through that initial withdrawal symptom of the control addict.
Yes.
Once you get past the first 20 minutes of phantom phone checking, your brain shifts states.
Yeah.
You move out of the executive function and into what neuroscientists call the default mode network.
Your sensory perception opens up.
Because you aren't staring at a blue dot on a digital map, you actually notice the architecture. You notice the strange little bookstore down the alley.
Sometimes this exercise leads you to vigorously hike up Twin Peaks. Sometimes it leads you to sit motionless on a park bench for 2 hours, just watching the wind move through the trees, giving your central nervous system a chance to finally downregulate.
And sometimes you bump into someone who changes your life.
Exactly. Sometimes you unexpectedly bump into an old acquaintance who has the exact piece of information you needed. The core mechanism is the same as the God box. You let the psyche unfurl without editing, without a schedule.
Letting go clears the space. It creates the vacuum that allows the apartment to arrive via the veterinarian. It creates the vacuum that allows the soul to actually breathe on a Tuesday afternoon.
But inevitably, the skeptical listener is sitting there right now, drawing a very hard line.
I know they are.
They're thinking, okay, I get it. I can surrender my Tuesday afternoon walking route. I can even try surrendering my apartment hut to a wooden box. But we need to talk about money.
The big one. Money.
Finances are physical. They are measurable. Surely I have to grip the steering wheel with absolute terrifying force when it comes to my bank account, because if I don't obsess over my resources, I won't be able to survive.
I am so glad we are going here, because the text's answer to that is wrong. You are completely wrong. Earning $2 million a year will not save you from poverty if your mouth is a factory for scarcity.
This is easily one of the most confronting, face-slapping concepts in the entire deep dive.
It really is.
We are talking about the frequency of scarcity.
The book illustrates this by contrasting 2 completely different clients, and the juxtaposition is just mind-blowing. First, we have Marie.
Marie.
Marie is a highly savvy entrepreneur. She is an internet millionaire who hit it big at the dawn of the tech boom. She owns multiple luxury homes around the world. On paper, she has won the capitalist game.
She's at the very top.
But she constantly calls Tosha to complain bitterly about her resources. She actually breaks down crying on the phone, saying, "Do you know how hard it is to live on $2 million a year?"
Which just sounds absurd.
It does. She says, "With all my expenses and properties, every single night I seethe in regret that I didn't sell my company for more. I can barely sleep. I am often broke."
Let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
A literal millionaire who sincerely, neurologically believes she is broke.
Yes.
Now contrast Marie with a woman named Lori. Lori lives a very modest life, financially speaking. She doesn't have a massive portfolio, but she operates in a true, unshakable state of grace.
Complete abundance.
She constantly affirms to herself and others that she is a queen and that her needs are always miraculously met. She tells Tosha, "I have no idea how, but miracles constantly arrive."
And they do.
They actually do. When she goes to a crowded neighborhood, parking spaces magically open up right in front of her destination. When she has an unexpected expense, a random extra job appears out of nowhere to cover the exact amount. Loyal, generous friends literally drop from the sky to support her.
And what happens to Marie, the millionaire who couldn't stop crying about her massive expenses? Tosha notes that Marie called back a long time later to announce she had officially declared bankruptcy.
Unbelievable.
Through a series of bizarre upheavals, bad investments, and chaotic market shifts, she lost almost everything. Her $2 million a year could not protect her from the gravity of her own mindset.
This introduces a profound Sanskrit concept mentioned in the text, Matrika Shakti.
Matrika Shakti.
It translates roughly to the supreme power of one's own word. But we have to explain how this actually functions, because it isn't just about chanting magic words like a spell.
Right, it's not Harry Potter.
No. The principle is that your word is your law. What the contrast between Marie and Lori proves is a metaphysical and psychological truth. Prosperity is almost never conditional upon the mathematical state of your bank account.
Which is so counterintuitive.
It is entirely conditional upon your state of mind and the frequency you broadcast. We actively craft the architecture of our world by what we repeatedly say. Marie's constant spoken word of poverty became her literal physical law.
I know someone listening is rolling their eyes right now. They're thinking, sure, Lori feels like a queen, but good vibes and a positive attitude don't pay the electric bill.
Of course they're thinking that.
How does the universe actually strip a millionaire of her wealth just because she complained? How do we bridge this gap between woo-woo mindset shifts and actual physical dollars?
Think of Matrika Shakti as a highly sophisticated, cognitive and energetic filter. It is like a self-fulfilling radio frequency.
Okay.
If you tune your internal radio to the station broadcasting, "I never have enough, life is terrifyingly expensive, I am going to run out of resources to the universe," and your own subconscious acts as a giant amplifier.
It just turns up the volume on that thought.
It heartily agrees with you. It says, you want to inhabit a reality where you are broke. Okay, let's match that frequency.
Wow.
Psychologically, when you operate from sheer terror and lack, your peripheral vision narrows. You become defensive. You make reactive, fearful investments. You alienate business partners with your desperation.
We're just radiating panic.
You literally filter out opportunities because your brain is only scanning the horizon for threats. Marie dismantled her own empire because her nervous system demanded that her physical reality match her internal reality of poverty.
So the universe doesn't punish you. It just forcefully aligns your external circumstances with the broadcast you are sending out.
Exactly.
If you insist you never have enough, the world nods and says, as you wish. But if you embody the frequency of flow like Lori, if you feel you are fundamentally abundant, what needs to come will always find a way to reach you completely regardless of the macroeconomic climate.
So the ultimate question becomes, how do you interrupt the broadcast?
Right.
What is the practical solution if you are sitting at your kitchen table right now, staring at a stack of bills, feeling the icy grip of financial panic in your chest?
The text offers a solution that is completely wild. It makes absolutely no logical sense.
Tell them.
If you feel broke, the advice is give something away immediately.
It completely short-circuits the ego's survival mechanism.
It defies all logic. Your brain is screaming, conserve, hoard, we don't have enough. But the text is clear. Go buy a friend a cup of coffee, put a $5 bill in a barista's tip jar, donate a bag of clothes.
Just move the energy.
Do whatever it takes, no matter how small, to physically feel prosperous despite your current spreadsheet. You have to violently break the frequency of constriction. You have to demonstrate to your own terrified psyche that there is still flow, that water is still moving through the pipes.
By taking the physical action of giving something away, you are staging a neurological coup.
A neurological coup, I like that.
You are stepping out of the helpless role of the victim of scarcity, and you are actively stepping into the role of the benefactor. You are physically proving to your nervous system that you have enough to share.
Yeah.
And in that single moment of generosity, you shift the Matrika Shakti, the power of your word and your vibration, from the dead end of I lack to the open highway of I have.
Okay, I can see how that works when the scarcity is just a phantom anxiety in my head. I can buy a coffee to break a bad mood. But we need to push this into the deep end. What happens when the loss isn't just a feeling? What happens when it is a malicious external event? What happens when someone literally steals from you?
This is the hard part.
How on earth are you supposed to maintain a frequency of abundance when you have been robbed blind?
This is where the material gets incredibly challenging. It leads us into what is perhaps the ultimate, most difficult financial strategy discussed in the book: the absolute necessity of radical forgiveness.
When a thief runs off with your money, calling the cops, hiring a lawyer, or hiring a private investigator is standard operating procedure. We want justice. We want retribution.
Of course we do.
But the text suggests that writing a letter of forgiveness is the mechanism that actually restores your wealth.
It completely violates every evolutionary instinct we have for fairness and self-protection.
There is a vivid story in the book about a massive betrayal involving a man named Tony.
Yes, Tony the thief.
Tony essentially scammed or stole a significant amount of money from the narrator's friend. The natural, justified human response is intense, burning rage. You want to see Tony in jail. You want him to suffer.
Naturally.
But Tosha points out a terrifying metaphysical mechanic. When you hold on to that intense, righteous anger toward a thief like Tony, that rage creates what she calls a blazing ring of fire around you.
A blazing ring of fire.
And the text is explicit about the collateral damage of this fire. It doesn't just keep Tony out. It blocks all good, all new opportunities, and all new money from entering your life.
We have to break down how negative emotions function on an energetic and physical level here. They are not just private feelings happening safely inside your own head. They are heavy, restrictive, energetic leashes.
Leashes.
The supreme irony of hatred is that it ties you karmically and psychologically to the exact person you wish to escape.
That is so twisted.
You think your burning anger is a shield pushing them away, but it is actually a thick, heavy steel chain binding you to the person who wronged you.
Duh.
You become a permanent psychological hostage to the person you despise most.
You become a hostage to the person you despise. That is a brutal realization. Because writing a letter to a thief feels like I'm letting them get away with it.
It feels like weakness.
It feels like I'm avoiding the practical reality that someone took my money. How does playing pretend with my energy actually restock my bank account? How do you break the chain when you are legitimately, rightfully furious?
The key is that you do not bypass the anger. You don't paste a fake smile over it. The text offers a very practical, highly visceral tool for extraction.
The unsent letter.
Yes, you sit down and write a letter to the person who wronged you. And it must be a vicious, completely unfiltered, raging letter.
Just let them have it.
You let every ounce of venom out onto the page. You say absolutely everything you have ever wished to scream at them. You do not hold back. And you absolutely do not edit it to sound spiritually enlightened or polite.
No toxic positivity here.
Exactly. You put the raw hatred on the paper.
But, and this is the hinge upon which the whole strategy turns, you never send it.
Exactly. Sending it just re-engages the ego battle. It invites their defensive energy back into your life.
Right.
Writing the letter is solely a mechanical extraction process. It allows the toxic, stagnant energy to move out of your physical body and onto a physical medium. But the process doesn't stop with the letter.
Here's the second part.
The next step is fascinating from the perspective of how humans interact with their environments. You must go through your home and ruthlessly throw away or give away every single physical object connected to that person.
Everything.
Pictures, gifts, old letters, even clothes you wore during significant arguments with them. Why? Because objects hold psychic prana, or energy.
They act like little radioactive batteries of the past.
That is the perfect analogy. Every time you walk past the watch that Tony gave you, or the chair Tony used to sit in, your brain subconsciously spikes your cortisol. Your nervous system re-experiences the betrayal.
You're just constantly reinfecting yourself.
If you keep these radioactive batteries around, they make it infinitely harder to cut the leash. They continuously reattach the energetic cords. You have to physically purge the space to clear the energetic space.
Wow.
And then finally, you initiate the most difficult step. You pray for closure. You formally hand the entire contaminated relationship over to divine order. You explicitly ask for the willingness to forgive the past so you can be carried forward to a new time.
And what actually happens when you do that? In the story from the text, once the blazing ring of anger was fully released, Tony the thief actually returned the cash.
He brought it back.
He literally brought it back in a bag. And Tosha states clearly that if her friend had stayed locked in that righteous anger, Tony could never have returned it, even if he wanted to.
The anger was a wall.
The wall of resentment would have blocked the physical flow of the restitution. Playing to forgive him opened the energetic door. But the text makes an even more important point. Even if Tony hadn't returned the cash, releasing the anger allows the broader divine source to replace the funds from an entirely different direction.
The universe has other pockets.
Exactly. If one supply dries up, there is always another waiting to flow, provided your pipes aren't clogged with hatred.
We can see how letting go of emotional baggage is intrinsically, undeniably linked to letting go of financial panic. The book shares another brilliant case study about this involving a woman named Lori.
Oh, the mortgage story.
Lori owned a house in Northern California during the absolute rock-bottom worst of the economic recession. The real estate market was collapsing, the value of her home was plummeting daily, and she was trapped in a total mortgage meltdown.
A nightmare scenario.
She was obsessively checking the real estate websites every few hours, practically needing a Xanax every time she looked at the plunging numbers.
She was gripping that steering wheel so hard her knuckles were white, trying to mentally force the global economy to bend to her need to sell her house.
Yes. And the advice she received from Tosha was to radically release her personal, ego-driven focus on exactly how much money she would win or lose.
How does she do that?
She had to undergo a mental exercise where she formally returned the house to the divine. After all, from a metaphysical standpoint, where did the house come from in the first place?
Right. She didn't build the dirt it sits on.
It was never truly hers. She's just stewarding it. She had to detach from the outcome entirely. Instead of viewing the sale as a battle where she had to extract a certain amount of cash to survive, she invoked a situation where she and a potential buyer could both win. She stopped trying to conquer the collapsed market and started looking for harmony.
She laid down her weapons. She stopped fighting the current. She put up a single, relatively simple Craigslist ad. She didn't hire a frantic team of brokers. And within 2 months, again, smack in the middle of a historic, terrible economic recession, she sold the house without a broker to a deeply grateful couple who had a new baby for precisely the amount of money she needed to move on with her life.
It's amazing.
The release of her own emotional terror was the exact mechanism that allowed the financial resolution to naturally arrive.
It is the ultimate proof of concept. Detachment doesn't mean giving up. Detachment creates the necessary spatial vacuum for creation and resolution to occur.
Okay, so we have talked extensively about cutting the heavy leashes to our enemies, to the people who steal from us, or the markets that crash on us. But what about the leashes held by the people we voluntarily invite into our homes?
Oh, this is the tough one.
What about the people we call our friends?
This is where the concept of psychic self-defense gets incredibly uncomfortable, because it requires us to look at the people closest to us with brutal objectivity.
The friend who is always, always there for you when you hit rock bottom.
The savior friend.
Right.
Yeah.
The one who rushes over with ice cream when you get dumped. The one who will sit on the phone and listen to you cry about your bankruptcy for 6 hours. That wonderfully supportive friend might actually be the heavy iron anchor keeping you pinned to the bottom of the ocean.
We are talking about the phenomenon of bad weather friends. The fair weather friend in reverse.
Yes. There is a story in the text about a woman named Mary. Mary was an incredibly supportive presence in the narrator's life whenever there was a crisis. If there was a financial meltdown or a health fiasco, Mary was on the front lines bringing soup, offering a shoulder to cry on.
Sounds like a great friend.
But then the narrator had a particularly catastrophic, brutal week. She got dumped by her fiancé and then immediately after physically broke her hand.
A total systemic collapse of her life. And how did Mary, the supportive friend, react to this absolute devastation?
Mary was practically glowing. She was buzzing with energy. She was a helpful dynamo, doing the dishes and fluffing the pillows, but she was actively marveling at her friend's pain.
Wow.
She was trilling about how her friend had the worst karma and dramatically sighing that she simply didn't know how she survived such relentless tragedy.
We have to deeply analyze the twisted psychology of people like Mary. Why do they feed so voraciously on the disaster of others?
It's sick.
It goes all the way back to what we discussed earlier with Marie the Millionaire, the scarcity model of the universe. People like Mary operate on a fundamental subconscious belief that there is a finite, highly limited amount of happiness, success, and abundance in the universal bank.
It's a zero-sum game to them. If someone else takes a slice of the happiness pie, there is less pie for Mary.
Exactly. They unconsciously believe that if you are happy, if you are successful and radiant, there is actively less happiness available for them. Your success is perceived by their nervous system as an existential threat.
That makes so much sense.
Therefore, your disaster, your heartbreak, your broken hand makes them feel profoundly safe. It proves to them that they aren't the only ones suffering, and more insidiously, it keeps you in a weakened, dependent position where you cannot possibly outshine them.
They need you broken.
They love your suffering because it secures the borders of their own fragile ego.
That is deeply unsettling to realize, because on the surface, people like Mary look like the best, most loyal friends in the world. They are literally spoon-feeding you soup. It is so hard to recognize the toxicity when it is wrapped in acts of service.
But underneath the soup and the sympathy, they are functioning as energetic vampires. They are siphoning your life force to stabilize their own insecurity.
Which is why the text gives us what I think is the single most important rule of psychic self-defense. You cannot judge a person by how they act when they are in the room with you. You judge them entirely by how your nervous system feels after they leave.
That is the only crucial metric. When the door closes behind them, do you feel filled, inspired, and lighter? Or do you feel heavy, drained, and inexplicably exhausted like you just ran an emotional marathon?
A hangover.
An energy hangover. If you are consistently depleted after spending time with someone, even if they were saying all the right, perfectly supportive things on paper, you have to trust that physical, energetic drain. Your body knows before your brain does. You have to severely cut back contact or drop them altogether. You have to protect your frequency.
You must violently cut the cords to people who secretly feed on your misery. But it's not just bad weather friends we give our power away to.
No, we give it to authority figures, too.
Exactly. We hemorrhage our power to societal systems, to rigid labels. We willingly hand our power over to psychics, to spiritual gurus, to astrology apps, to Myers-Briggs personality tests. We're desperately hoping someone else will hand us a definitive label and tell us exactly who we are supposed to be.
We are terrified of our own vastness. We are desperate for a simplistic script to follow so we don't have to take the terrifying responsibility of managing our own sprawling, contradictory natures.
Which brings us to the concept of smashing the archetypes. If a personality test, a pop astrology book, or a psychic ever looks at you and tells you that you are fundamentally doomed to be a jealous person, or doomed to be chronically anxious, or doomed to always have failed relationships because of your type, they are selling you a very cheap, very toxic lie.
The text uses the framework of astrology to illustrate this point beautifully, but it applies to any system of categorization. The core argument is that no human being is ever permanently bound by the lowest frequency or the most negative expression of their type.
There are two great anecdotes the author shares to highlight this. First, Tosha is sitting at a cafe in Ojai, California. A guy wearing a poncho and eating a burrito randomly walks up to her, because of course he does, it's Ojai, California.
Naturally.
And he just reads her energy perfectly. He closes his eyes and says to her, "You, unusual, half and half, everything, introvert, extrovert, east, west, brain, heart, young, old, woman, man, everything, no forget." And then he just opens his eyes and wanders off to finish his burrito.
He identified the core paradox of her existence. He saw clearly that she wasn't just one neat, easily digestible category. She contained multitudes.
Right, and she realized in that moment that she had spent years exhausting herself, trying to dissolve or suppress the innate, wild paradoxes of her nature, instead of just embracing that she is all of those conflicting things at once.
We all do that.
We do. And then there is the second story, which I love, the story of the Virgo lawyer. This guy had practical Saturn on his sun, so he dutifully suffered through law school and passed the bar entirely to appease his father's expectations. But he was physically and spiritually miserable. He was developing ulcers. He confessed to Tosha, "I was without a doubt the world's worst attorney. I'd be in the middle of a tense, high-stakes deposition, and I'd just be sitting there dreaming of giving everyone in the room a makeover. It was like working in a special, sterile rung of Brooks Brothers hell.
I want to translate that astrological jargon for the listener because it's a profound psychological point. Saying he had Saturn on his sun essentially means his psychological drive for duty, structure, and parental approval was completely overriding his core identity.
He was trapped in the good son archetype.
He was acting out the archetype of the serious, dutiful son, but he was ignoring the rest of his internal architecture. He had a whole cluster of planetary energy in Libra, which, in this system, represents a deep psychological drive for art, beauty, aesthetics, and harmony.
So a creative soul trapped in a courtroom.
Exactly. You have a guy who is structurally built to create beauty, forcing himself to argue aggressively in a drab courtroom. Eventually, the pain of pretending became greater than the fear of disappointing his father.
He had to break.
He finally gave in to his true, complete nature. He quit law, moved to New York, and opened a highly successful boutique. He stopped trying to be the narrow archetype of the serious lawyer and finally allowed himself to become his whole contradictory self.
And the book has a great metaphor for this release of parental expectation, the coconut ritual.
Yes, the smashing of the coconut.
The text describes how in certain Hindu traditions you take a coconut, which represents the hard shell of the ego and all the rigid rules you were taught by your family, and you literally smash it open. The milk inside represents the old, stagnant trauma spilling out and being released.
It's a physical release of the invisible strings your parents attached to you. You are smashing the coconut of their expectations.
So what does this all mean for us? The expert analysis in the text regarding the higher octave is absolutely brilliant. People think that being a Scorpio, just to use the common astrological metaphor, means you are doomed to be vindictive, controlling, and obsessively jealous.
That is the scorpion crawling in the dirt.
Yes, that is the lowest possible frequency of that specific energetic blueprint. But the text explains the beautiful evolution of human potential. The scorpion is not the end of the line. It is meant to evolve and purify.
It transforms.
That intense, piercing energy transforms into the eagle, which represents sweeping clarity, penetrating vision, and immense courage. And eventually, if the person continues to do the inner work and release the ego's grip, that same raw energy evolves into the phoenix.
The phoenix.
The magical, transcendent bird with the power of infinite rebirth soaring joyously to the sun. The ultimate point here is that every single human trait, every astrological sign, every personality type on a test has a low, destructive frequency and a high, luminous frequency.
Nothing is fixed.
Nothing in your fundamental nature is inherently bad or doomed. It all contains the potential for luminosity and grace, depending entirely on how you tune the instrument.
You aren't doomed to be the scorpion in the dirt. You possess the exact raw material required to become the phoenix. You just have to change the frequency. And this realization leads us directly to the ultimate liberating concept in the text, the rejection myth.
The rejection myth. I want to break this down because it sounds impossible. If I ask someone out and they say no, or I apply for a job and they hire someone else, how is that not rejection?
Because of how you interpret the event. The ego interprets a no as a referendum on your inherent worth. The ego says, I am defective, I failed.
Right.
But the text argues that if you are authentically playing the unique music of your own soul, whether your soul's music sounds like smooth, relaxing jazz, a haunting Japanese shakuhachi flute, or aggressively loud Black Sabbath, some people are inevitably going to hate it.
Because they don't like heavy metal.
Exactly. It will grate on their nerves. But they aren't rejecting you as a fundamentally flawed being. Your charts, your vibrations, your music simply do not fit their current acoustic needs. It is a mechanical mismatch of frequencies, nothing more.
It's like a puzzle piece trying to jam itself into the wrong section of the board and crying because it doesn't fit. You don't change the shape of the puzzle piece, you just move it to the right section.
Precisely. The people, the jobs, the partners who actually match your natural frequency will inevitably be drawn to the music you are playing. The ones who don't resonate will naturally fall away, and you must let them fall away without chasing them.
But we chase them anyway.
We do, because we think we need everyone's approval. In fact, caring about securing everyone's approval is exactly what makes you their energetic prisoner. You start watering down your Black Sabbath into elevator music just to keep people from leaving the room, and in the process, you destroy your own genius.
And this plays right into how we handle relationships, too. The dating rule books.
Oh, the rules.
The text talks about how we buy these bestsellers that teach you how to play hard to get, how to be aloof, how to strategize your text message response times.
It's all just ego manipulation.
Right. And the text says all these books are essentially just teaching you how to walk confidently towards total isolation because you are putting up a fake frequency.
You're wearing a mask. And who falls in love with a mask?
Exactly. And on the flip side, the text talks about the cruelty of fake sympathy when breaking up with someone.
This is a harsh truth.
It says the most cruel thing you can do to a partner isn't to leave them. The most cruel thing is to stay out of a sense of pity, keeping silent about the fact that the resonance is dead.
Because you think you're protecting them?
Yes. You think you are being kind. But what you are actually doing is violently stealing their time. You are stripping them of their divine right to go out and find the person who actually resonates with their frequency.
Honest rejection is a gift. Fake love is a prison.
You just need to be exactly who you are, loudly and without a single apology. Embracing your complete, dazzling, wildly contradictory nature is the final step in getting out of your own way.
Because when you finally stop trying to violently twist yourself into a shape that pleases others, you drop the exhausting armor of the ego. And when the armor drops, you open the channel for the divine or the natural flow of the universe to actually use you. You become a clear, unobstructed vessel.
There's a story in the text about someone hitting absolute rock bottom before they became that clear vessel. The divine garbage can story.
Oh, there's a powerful one.
There's a 30-year-old woman who was diagnosed with a severe chronic illness. Modern medicine essentially gave up on her. She was bedridden, living in a basement, just waiting to die.
She lost everything.
Her career, her relationships, her health, total devastation. And one night, in excruciating pain, she literally dragged herself out of bed and crawled over to a garbage can in her basement. She had a poster of a deity, I think it was a Hindu god, and she just ripped it off the wall and threw it in the trash.
She was completely done.
She screamed at the universe, "I surrender, take it all, I have nothing left to manage." She threw her entire life into the cosmic garbage can. And the text notes that it was only in that precise moment of total aggressive surrender when she stopped fighting the illness, stopped fighting the universe, that the healing actually began.
Because the resistance stopped.
Exactly. She realized that when she threw herself into the trash, the divine was already waiting for her right there at the bottom of the bin. She eventually fully recovered.
It just goes to show that grace doesn't always arrive on a cloud. Sometimes it meets you on the basement floor when you finally drop the illusion of control.
And we fight that control every single day, even in the smallest things, like traffic.
Oh, traffic is the ultimate test of surrender.
The text mentions this phenomenon where you are stuck in a 20-minute traffic jam. You are pounding the steering wheel, you're swearing, you're sweating, you're furious because you are going to be late.
You're convinced the universe is punishing you.
Yeah. Yes. But then you finally get moving, and a few miles up the road, you see a horrific multi-car accident that just happened. And you realize, with a cold sweat, that if you hadn't been delayed by that frustrating traffic jam 20 minutes ago, you would have been exactly in the intersection when that semi-truck lost its brakes.
The obstacle was the protection.
The delay was the rescue. It's what the author calls the divine advance team. If you are anxious about missing a flight, or you can't get the cheap plane tickets, you have to trust that the advance team is smoothing out the timeline ahead of you.
You are sitting in the chariot, not pulling it.
We have covered so much ground today. From the terrifying blowback of forcing our desires, to the sheer physics of how anxiety narrows our vision, to the absolute necessity of purging the physical and emotional space to let new life in. We've seen how holding on to anger bankrupts us, and how trying to control the universe is the exact thing keeping us exhausted.
It all circles back to the central disease we discussed at the very beginning. The reason we are all so burnt out, so anxious, so desperate for the next self-help book is because we are carrying a weight we were never designed to carry.
We spend our entire lives acting like we are the general manager of the universe. We exhaust ourselves day in and day out by trying to control the completely uncontrollable. We write endless, frantic to-do lists for God. We panic, we cry, we lose sleep when the puzzle pieces don't snap together exactly according to our meticulous, ego-driven 5-year plans.
Which raises an incredibly important question.
Yeah.
And it is a challenge I want to issue directly to you, the listener, right now as this deep dive comes to a close.
Listen closely to this.
Think about the sheer amount of energy you spend trying to force doors open that are clearly locked. Think about the friction of constantly swimming upstream.
So what if, for just the next 24 hours, you officially resigned from that job? What if you took off the badge that says General Manager of the Universe?
For one day.
What if you look directly at the biggest, most terrifying, most complex problem in your life right now, whether that is the empty bank account, the broken relationship, the uncertain career path, or the health scare, and you just completely opened your hands?
Open them wide.
What if you took a deep physical breath, dropped your shoulders, and finally said out loud, let what wants to come, come. Let what wants to go, go.
Just imagine for 1 second the profound relief of finally putting down that impossible burden. Imagine the immense creative space that vacuum would create in your life.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We are leaving you today to ponder what massive, unthinkable miracles might rush in the exact moment you finally start pushing. And remember, the X-ray machine of your mind might be broken, the diagnostic waters of your current situation might be incredibly muddy, but sometimes letting the water settle is the only possible way to finally see clearly.